you don't spend any more time with anybody on this planet besides you. So you should probably love that person that you spend the most time with, which is you. Figure out how to love yourself. Don't beat yourself up over bad decisions or mistakes. That's how we grow. That's how we learn.
You are now listening to the Going North podcast with your host, author and speaker, Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday, you're going to hear the voice of a different author share their stories, expertise, and their struggles that they had to overcome in life to leave you inspired to get more out of your life. Be sure to not only listen to this episode, but share with others, connect with the authors, and always advance others to advance yourself. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, baby, 2021, baby, where we're hoping the new year doesn't drink what 2020 had, or heck, even double down on what 2020 drank. We got one heck of an author for you today, folks, because in the words of one of my favorite video game characters, Big Smoke from GTA San Andreas, it's time to return the favor, baby. It's a host-to-host special because we got a fellow bookcaster, fellow author, a fellow podcast host who is one heck of a guest, folks, one heck of a guest, because this wonderful gentleman right here is the founder and chief burnout officer of the Breakfast Leadership Network, a San Diego and Toronto-based burnout media firm. He's also an in-person and a certified virtual speaker, as well as certified in NLP, CBT Therapist, and is one of the world's leading authorities in the burnout recovery and prevention industry. So let's give it up for Mr. ML himself, Mr. Michael Levitt. How you doing today, sir?
Dom, Happy New Year. Great to be with you today.
That's right. It's great. That's right, man. Burnout, baby. That's right. We're walking candles, and folks have been like, stop throwing water on us.
It's been a blast for a lot of people, and I say that tongue in cheek. It's not been fun. Last year, which we like to refer to as 2020, it's nice to say last year with that, I think, for a lot of people, based on everything that I saw on social media. And if people could light fire to the calendars, they probably did. Now, if they only use a digital calendar, don't light your phone on fire. That's not good. You're going to need that for this year. But ultimately, you want to, just like, okay, we'll survive that. Now here's 2021. All right, now what? And everybody, and we talked about this in the pre-show, a lot of people like to say, okay, it's the new year, new me. I'm going to do all these things. And they get this laundry list of things that they want to implement in their life. And the problem is, much like with burnout, we overload ourselves with things. We're just overwhelmed with all the things that we want to do. So our resolution list is as long as a CVS receipt. And like, no, you're not going to be able to accomplish all of those. I tell people, go ahead and list them out. And I mean, that's one thing, is list out all the things you want to do. Go ahead and do that, but then pick two. And you can do that by scoring them or whatever, however you want to figure out to pick two that you are really passionate about. You really want to accomplish these things this year, over the next month or next 12 months, whatever. And then take that and write those down on a different piece of paper. And then take your original list of all the things you want to do, file that away somewhere. Don't look at it, just put it away. Only pull that out is if you accomplish those other two goals, the top two goals that you establish. If you haven't yet, then don't grab that list. Continue working on those things. And by doing that, it helps, because if we overload ourselves and say, okay, I want to lose weight, I want to quit smoking, I want to exercise more, I want to write a book, I want to do this, I want to launch a business. Okay, good luck. You're going to fail. Stats have proven that. So pick a couple things that you're really passionate about and do it, because otherwise you're going to burn yourself out trying to make yourself better. And that's such an ironic way to go about things, but it happens time and time again. It's just one of the elements that we see with people that are burned out is they overcommit themselves to things, and it really, really bites them hard. In many cases, it can be really devastating to people.
Yeah, you're so right about that. And overcommitting, like, dude, that is so true, especially nowadays where a lot of folks are like, man, like, can I keep my job, please? Or like, let me overcommit to these things. And then you got a got the CVS scroll length list of things to do. And it's like, oh crap. And you're just so right about that. It's kind of like when you try to really eat all you can eat at an all you can eat buffet. You try to eat the whole buffet I guess pre-COVID now, since I
Mm,
guess those are no longer really popping as they used to be. And it's like,
mhm.
no, it's just not going to happen. More food is gonna come, more work is gonna come, and then you'll just burn out from trying to say yes to trying to do everything when you can only do a certain amount of things.
Yeah, we see that a lot, especially in the early days of the pandemic where people were overworking because they were working remotely. And a lot of people felt, okay, I have to prove to my boss that I'm actually working and not watching, catching up on 2 seasons of The Mandalorian or whatever. Like, no, I'm working. So what they do is they overcommit themselves and then they're just really taxed. Toss in the fact that so many people became full-time school teachers as well during this time. So their
Mhm.
kids were home, their spouse was home, the dog's yelling at everybody, going, "Why are you here? This is my time. Why are all these humans here? Go somewhere." Well, in some places you really can't because everything's locked down. So it's been a challenging time for everybody. And you just, and even figuring out how to work remotely, because so many people, even though working remotely has been around for a long time, there are still a ton of people that have never done that before. So they are all out of sorts. They're like, wait a minute, how do I have the right equipment? How do I connect to the VPN at work? Where are my files? How do I print? Do I have a printer at home? Okay, oh, wait a minute, we've got one computer at home. Can work give me a laptop so I can work? And it's, those early days was just an absolute zoo for a lot of organizations. But we've been into this now for going on 10 months now. Feels like 10 years, but if 10 months. And now we're like, okay, we're kind of getting into the swing of this. We're seeing news about the vaccines, and okay, when's that gonna all excuse me, roll out? When are we going to be able to freely travel again? All of these things, people are looking forward to that, which is good. It's nice to have things to look forward to, but we're not there yet. So it's time for focusing on your self-care and your well-being and taking care of yourself and being cautious about things, because no matter if you like masks, don't like wearing masks, believe this is a pandemic, don't believe it, whatever the case may be, I mean, there's proof that people are suffering from this. So even if you're not fully supportive of it and you're irritated about wearing a mask, do it anyway. Just, I don't want to get political on anything about this, but do it anyway. Limit your exposure to things. And when you do that, I mean, you're keeping yourself out of the way just in case you happen to get it or you happen to be a carrier of this thing. And I've, throughout this entire time, I've done my best to limit my exposure. I'll order a lot of things online, don't travel much. I obviously don't travel really at all. Grocery store. There's a pharmacy across the street if I need something quick. Gas station occasionally. My better half, works in an or industry that's an essential service, so she's been working the whole time. So we get go every week to get groceries. We get gasoline. We've got the routine all set, but then the rest of the time we're home. And it's a situation, of course, we'd like to go to the movies or like to go out to dinner or like to do all these things, but right now we can't, because in our area they're not open. So another thing about burnout is, because burnout is basically prolonged stress, that's not addressed and all of that. If you are prolonged stress about this pandemic, then yeah, you're going to end up burning out from all the things that are going on. I don't fret about I can't go to our favorite restaurant because they're closed right now, or I can't go to the movies, or all the things, or concerts, or sporting events. All of these things that we used to be able to do, haven't been able to do over the last few months. We will again. It's just a case of, okay, well, I can't do it now. I can do it when we can, and when we can, that's great. But when you're constantly stressing about a variety of things, and we've had no shortage of things to stress us out over the last year, if you don't address that, then it gets prolonged, and then that's when you start running into mental and physical ailments, which can really be problematic for you, which is, happened to me back in 2009 and 10. I had my burnout journey, and it was catastrophic to me. And I see a lot of people going down that path, and it scares me because I don't want anybody to experience what I had to go through back then. I'm better for it. It made me a better person. I certainly wouldn't have chose that, but in an ironic sort of way, I did choose it on my behaviors, my patterns, my beliefs, my habits, and that's why burnout is such a significant challenge for so many people. Is you have to get ahead of it, because if you don't, the prolongedness of it can really be catastrophic to your life and those that you're around and you love.
Yeah, man, you can say that again. It's so true because, like, you really do have to get ahead of it. Because I know folks usually call you after effects, like, "Hey, so yeah, this burnout expert, this chief burnout officer, I got some employees and need you to help me out with. They're all at the on their last leg right now. Like,
Mhm.
you could have called me before, but hey, I'm here to help you out anyways. And heck, even knowing your story ahead of time, like it's one heck of a powerful one, man. I think it was what was it, every day working from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. for 7 days a week.
Yeah, I was working emails and working from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week, and I did that for a couple years, and then it all came to a crashing halt starting in May 2009 to May 2010. The following happened to me. I had a heart attack that should have killed me. I lost my job during the Great Recession. My family car was repossessed by the bank, and then finally my home was foreclosed. So all of those things happened in a year, and all of those things happened because I was burned out and I didn't take care of things. I wasn't wise. I made mistakes at work. I obviously, you're not taking care of your health, created very expensive medical bills. And of course, when you lose your job, you don't have any health coverage. And so I was paying $1,000 a month on heart medication that I wasn't taking before because I didn't think I needed it. You toss that into the fact that that kind of impacts your ability to pay other bills. And eventually the banks said, hey, we had a deal. You're supposed to pay us. We give you money and a loan for a car and a home. If you don't pay us, the contract says in section whatever it was, we can take those things back. And they exercise that right. And needless to say, you look at each of those losses, heart attack. I was very young at the time, and my heart attack, it should have killed me because I had blockages in my left anterior descending artery, which is known
Mm.
as the widowmaker. Usually, if you have a heart attack and you got blockages in that artery, sayonara, you're done. Thankfully, I survived that. Losing a job, never fun. Really bad if you lose it during a recession or during a pandemic, because there are less opportunities out there. There's still opportunities. There's still, you go to any job board, you'll find a plethora of jobs that are available right now. But the ones that line up with where you are and what you need to make from a financial and obligation standpoint, maybe not as much. So it's, a big challenge for a lot of people. And of course, losing your car or your home, devastating. Has a huge ripple effect on all of those things. And for me to have all those things happen to me in a period of a year, needless to say, uh, it it helps you navigate pandemics, ironically, because you go, it's like, oh, all right, well, I'm extremely thankful and blessed that this time around, going through what we've been experiencing, I've been on the other side of the fence where none of those things, knock on wood, have impacted me. I'm extremely thankful because I know and I see it and I hear about it, and it breaks my heart because I know what that feels like. It's not fun, but the ray of hope is you can get through it. I did. And after everything that transpired, for me, it required me to rebuild my life from stage one, step one. Now, for most people that burn out, they don't have to reinvent their life because that's like the equivalent of, okay, I'm going to do those 40 New Year's resolutions. No, you don't have to. You can do couple adjustments here and there, but you need to look within. And that's a big challenge for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like looking in because they don't like what they see. And I always tell people, you don't spend any more time with anybody on this planet besides you. So you should probably love that person that you spend the most time with, which is you. Figure out how to love yourself. Don't beat yourself up over bad decisions or mistakes. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. We've all done things that we regret. We do things that like, well, that didn't work out the way I wanted it to, whether it's choices, relationships, eating that buffet dinner and going back to that buffet 6 or 7 plates version. Yeah, that's one. I think it'll come back in a hybrid kind of way. Actually, a town that my parents used to live in, there's a buffet that they visited for years, and they've reopened, but obviously quite modified. So instead of you going up to the trough and loading everything up, you they load it for you. So you just point and they kind of give it to you, which still gives people the value of the buffet if they like eating at buffets. But there's a little bit more, I don't want to say portion control, I'm guessing not, but at least it's a little bit more controlled, so we can keep the transmitting this horrible virus at a minimum. And I'm thankful that that restaurant was able to reopen in a modified way, because a lot of restaurants unfortunately haven't had that much success since this has happened.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it's good if they're able to adapt and really just stay nimble that way. And heck, even that's probably another benefit of really probably going the prevention route as opposed to the remedy route with burnout, because it keeps your mind clear
Right.
to be able to make those type of decisions.
Yeah, that's one thing. When you're a sign of burnout is a lack of clarity. You're just numb. You can't make any decisions. Things aren't clear. You don't feel well. You're not sleeping well. You're probably making really bad nutrition decisions because you don't have time to actually pick out foods that are good for you. You're, basically ordering your food through a speaker, driving around the corner, paying for it, and getting a handed a brown bag. And every once in a while, fine. All 3 meals of your day, every day, that's not good. You get to meet a cardiologist after a while of doing that, unless you're one of those weird lucky ones that it doesn't impact them at all. Then go for it. Do whatever you want. I'm not telling people what to eat and what not to eat, but there's always those one people that can eat whatever and doesn't do anything, and other people, we look at it and it's like, oh man, my cholesterol went up. I didn't even eat it. It's like, why just thinking about it caused it to go up. Great, awesome. But it's clarity is such a beautiful thing, because clarity give in when you have clearness of mind, that's when you can see opportunities, that's when you can see challenges, that's when you can see times to, like, okay, I need to take a step back. We're in brand new year. I more or less took the month of December off. I mean, I still did some things, but scaled things way back. And I knew that I was going to do that because I planned that a year in advance. So if I look at my December 2021 calendar, there are days and weeks that are completely blocked off. So it's not like I have to reschedule everything. I did that in advance. And I even yesterday went through that exercise to kind of review where things are, for the year. Okay, it's new year. What'd I do? Oh, Monday morning, Dom. Oh, wow. Okay, let's rip the band-aid off of this year. Let's go. Yeah, like, all right. And it's like, because sometimes it's like, let's ease into this. Like, no, all right, there we go. Awesome. It's like, well, energy level is going to be good. I couldn't imagine a better show to be on than this one to start off the year. I just can't. It's like boom. And I love, all the shows I've been on great shows, but energy level and all of this and what you bring, and it's like, okay, let's kick the door of 2021 open. It's like, okay, we're here, let's do this. So I'm very thankful for that. But again, going back to the clarity, when you have clear minded, then you can see opportunities, then you can see things. You can recognize if things are working well or if they're not. But if you're numb or dull and you can't think straight and you're fatigued, then you don't have clarity of mind to be able to make any type of decision.
Yeah, man. Yes, indeed. Thanks so much for the edification as well, too, because that's something we all need it from time to time is that clarity and just that good energy too. So my goodness, man. And heck, even I guess what helps folks to really keep that clarity and heck even have good energy is really having what I it's like the first time I heard this, listen to one of your past interviews. Like I've heard work-life balance, which I'm not a fan of. Then her work life integration, which I'm really a big fan of. But then it's like, oh, this is something new. You have something called workplace harmony. I mean, work life harmony.
Mhm.
Like, my goodness, man, what led to that discovery?
Well, I look at work-life balance similar to, and it was the Van Halen album Balance, and the liner notes, and I have the CD of it. The liner notes, there's a guitar neck, and on that guitar neck, there's an egg that is balanced on the neck. Well, unless you get a deformed egg, try standing an egg up on its own. It's not going to stay there. It's going to go boop, boop. You can't balance that. It's just not impossible. Work-life harmony is you're one being. You work and you are supposed to have leisure time and self-care time and things that you do in life that you enjoy that bring you joy and fulfillment in life. You need to harmonize those things. Too often we try to say, okay, here's the work, here's the home, here's this. Okay, if you worked back in factory, if you work in a factory or things like that, you can sort of do that if you have a very strict schedule, start and breaks, go home. And you can't do any work at home because you're working in an assembly line, for example. We can't put on work on cars at home if it's an assembly line. My dad worked my dad worked for General Motors. I never remember seeing a forklift with an engine block in the driveway on his way home. No, he never brought work home. Not the physical work, the mental aspect of your job. Of course, everybody brings that home. Everybody's, thinking about their day, if something went well or something went bad, and they kind of work through it. And then hopefully get back into leisure time and meal time and spending time with family if they have family or whatever the case may be, just doing things that you enjoy. There's ebbs and flows. There's busy seasons and there's not. My first career was public accounting. So I worked, tax season, which is coming up pretty quick to my former colleagues. So it's basically, as I like to joke, because I was in Michigan at the time for that, it's a great way to get through winter because you're working 80 hours. You just don't see outside. You're just in an office all the time. Uh, but that's a busy time of year for accountants. Come April 16th, we go outside, we look around, we hear birds chirping. We're like, what is this? We're like fumbling around and like, where is everybody? And what is this? So but it's a very busy season. Then the rest of the year is fairly quiet. Now, some firms are busier than others, depending on the type of work that they do, consulting and whatnot. But that was the beginning of my career. And I'm like, okay, this geared up and all of that. And when I left that career and I went into IT, well, IT, and this was before the 99.9999% uptime kind of stuff that everybody likes now, because online was just in the early days. We were still using AOL and CompuServe back then, so it wasn't anything like what we have now. But there was still some responsibilities. Okay, these need to be up, so there was some different hours. So it kind of switched from this big block of time you always have to work on to, I use the analogy of kind of like a firefighter. Sometimes firefighters are working on a really big fire or emergency situation to deal with it. And it's high paced, it's up, full attention, get this resolved. Other times they're doing maintenance on the fire trucks or doing some things and exercises and whatnot to make sure that they're healthy to do that. But there's a lot of downtime. So harmonizing all of that so it's not as this rigid thing, is just kind of going with the flow and in being there where you are with what's required right now. And then that takes time and effort and getting an understanding and getting into a flow of things. And if you can get into that flow, it significantly reduces stress. And as we said before, prolonged stress turns into burnout. Well, if you don't stress, you're not going to burn out. I mean, there is stress in life, of course, there always is, but as long as it's not prolonged and not addressed, you'll be fine.
You can say that again. You can say that again, indeed. And it's like so darn true nowadays. And heck, even one of my colleagues called it hella work in the beginning, still does call it hella work because, like, with you said, like, with depending on the type of work you have, you're not going to physically carry it home. You're not going to carry a forklift home. That's just impossible. But the mental aspect of it, especially now where a lot of work can be done on your laptop, it's like, oh wow, I gotta work extra hard here so I can keep my job because it ain't looking good out here. It's like past recessions, you didn't have to wear a mask to our knowledge. This
Mhm.
one is like, oh crap, I gotta be extra careful with all the health, like keep masks on and everything like that, and really have to be careful and realize, oh, and some industries have really been having to force to switch and change. So everybody's basically learning how to ride a bike metaphorically again. So it's
Mhm.
been one heck of a ride with that. So with avoiding burnout and with everything that's been going on, what do you think two tips are for folks to keep in mind as we go into this new year now that the initial like really shaking of the shake is really over and we're just now finally getting into it's like, all right, we're used to this now.
Mhm.
We're tired of everything, but hey, we're gonna adapt and thrive. Any two tips for those to
Yeah, I think a couple big ones are one is, especially if you've been struggling with the work life harmony and it's been more work and a little less life, have a conversation with your employer, and you got to approach it carefully. Of course, you don't want to go in and say you're working me too hard. Well, it's not a good way to do it. Explain to them, okay, this is the situation, and identify the work that you've been doing. And if they're a decent employer and you have a decent boss, they should know, the quality of work that you're doing and the amount that you're doing. And basically, it's just to say, okay, and a lot of people are afraid to do this, but they say, right now, with everything else that's going on, I'm a bit overwhelmed, and I want to make sure that I do a great job for this organization because I love working here. I've enjoyed my time here. I want to stay here, but I'm concerned that I'm getting a bit overwhelmed. So I want to make sure that I keep the quality of my work at a high level, especially now because the organization needs it, and help you know, foster a conversation of, okay, what's a priority and what's not, because again, too many people said, well, I got to work on all these things, and it's not sustainable. And you don't want to burn out because employers shouldn't want you to burn out because that means they have to, you could go out on sick leave, or worst case scenario, you could die, or you could leave the organization. Either way, then they have to replace somebody, and it takes months to replace somebody. Even if they find somebody and hire them tomorrow, it still takes months for that person to get up to speed on how things are done, where are things, what's the policy, how do I log into here, what's the, it's a big chaotic thing for HR to deal with and management, and the turnover cost, of course, are a big thing, and insurance claims, people going out on sick leave and mental health leave will increase your insurance premiums. So it hits the bottom line, CEOs. If you don't think burnout doesn't hit your bottom line, wait till you get your insurance renewals for 2021. You might want to call your broker right now and kind of get a hint as to what that's going to look like, because I can think across the board they're probably going to be higher. So if people say, well, burnout doesn't impact the bottom line, oh yes it does, and it is hitting you, and you don't want those premiums to get too high, because then you got to make a note in the financial statements, and then the auditors are and people look at your statements going, why did the insurance go so high? Well, they had a ton of mental health claims to their organization. Not good for recruiting, people. So get that into under control. So have those conversations with your employer if you feel overwhelmed with the work and things like that. And two, another thing too is, even during this pandemic, find things you can do that you enjoy doing, that bring you joy and fulfillment in life. List those things out. Try to do a couple of them every week. For me, there's a couple nature trails that are really close to where I live, and I go there several times a week and just go outside. You know, maybe I'll see some ducks. If anything, I'll just see the water flowing or, nature or whatnot. And it's a great way to, turn off the noise and the soundtrack of life and busyness and start tuning into the life and the soundtrack of nature. And don't bring your earbuds, don't listen to music. Go outside and actually listen to nature, whether it's the wind in the trees or a river flowing or wildlife or ducks quacking or wherever you happen to go. If you have access to go to some type of a nature trail or a river or a ravine or something like that, it helps kind of get you down. It lowers blood pressure, and I feel it does a better job lowering blood pressure than 8 milligrams of Coversil. I know that because I used to take that. It's better for you. Less side effects too. You're breathing real air instead of HVAC air, and it's good. And so, but you may not be into nature trail. You might be into doing something else. And if you can still do that, then of course, schedule those things, do them every week. And that helps harmonize your life a little bit more. So you're not just doing all work stuff and not enjoying life at all. Because, you know, 2020, in most cases, if you ask people what they think about that year, you're going to hear a lot of profane words and everything else. Wasn't a great year for a lot of people. Okay. You can dictate how this year is going to be for you. Even in the midst of a pandemic, you can still dictate how you want this year to look for you. It's by designing your life and scheduling your life in such a way that benefits you. If you do that, then even with the bumps and twists and turns that 2021 will provide, whatever they are, you'll come out of it a little bit less dinged up than 2020 did to many of us because you've took control of how you want to spend your life. And if you do those things, have that conversation with your employer, schedule some things in life that are beneficial to you that you enjoy doing, you're going to have a better life. You're going to have a better year. Life will be easier. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be easier. We'll see what this year brings. I anticipate, the first part of the year is going to be a bit bumpy still, but as vaccines come in and the cases start going down and things start to open up again, it'll feel a lot like that April 16th after a long tax season. We're going to come outside and go, whoa, wow. Well, that was fun. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It's
You're like, it's like there's people. Whoa. Yeah. There's actually people out here, not just on Netflix. Wow. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. No. We'll all be out there. But hopefully we've all been vaccinated at that point or the cases are down low so we don't revert to the next wave of it. But yeah, we'll get there.
That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. Because we all can adapt and overcome. That's right, indeed. That's right, indeed. So, in your line of work, Rick, even in the land of podcasting, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're in interviewee mode?
I get asked a lot of questions. I think one of the comments I make from time to time, and it does irritate some people, but I say burnout is a choice. And a lot of people look at me and it's like, I didn't choose burnout. It's like, no one chooses to burn out, but your choices and your habits and your behaviors and your thought patterns and your commitments, all the things that we do in life can set you on a path to burning out if you don't have proper exit ramps and proper boundaries around how you do things. And in my case, with my burnout, I was not making good choices in a variety of different factors, and that led to my year of worst case scenarios. And thankfully, I got an opportunity to reboot, and I took that opportunity and go, okay, I don't want to go through that again. So what do I need to do to change? And I did. And like I said before, not everybody has to reboot their entire life. It's simple adjustments here and there that can be done, a couple things here, and depending on their situation. But it's one of those things where, talking about that, it's like we have control of our life. A lot of people delegate that too much. And whether it's because we overcommit because we have to make this type of money at this job so we can afford to live in this house in this neighborhood that we wanted, but in order to live there, then we have to make this type of income in a stressful, high paying job. Now, yeah, people make their choices where they want to live is up to them. All of that. There's a lot of circumstances involved. Maybe they want to be close to their family, or their partner wants to live there because of their role. So many different, I don't want to call them excuses, but they end up being that way. So you have to take stock in those things and go, okay, why is this important to me? Okay, what can I do to navigate through this? And with this pandemic, with the whole working from home, and a lot of organizations are saying we're going to stay working remotely. You're seeing some people, and that's why one of the biggest industries right now that's burning out is the mortgage industry, because mortgage brokers are working 16 to 18-hour days with all the applications for people getting new mortgages and moving. It's been an absolutely crazy market because people are leaving the San Franciscos and the New York Cities of the world, and they're moving out to the burbs where they have a little bit more elbow room and their cost of living is lower, and they can still work where they're working. So my fingers crossed, that will still be a big option for many people, because there's a lot of people that would prefer to work remotely all the time, and there's some people that cannot wait to get back in the office. So there's going to be some shifting of things, as long, and that's great. I think that's great for society, and to help people get to where they really want to be, and give them, and hopefully they have the opportunity to be able to do that. But long story short, it's, take stock in where you are in life, and what do you want your life to look like? What aspects of your life do you not like doing right now? Okay, and then figure out some ways to to amend those or change them. I don't like using the change word too much. That tends to scare people out. So that's why I say adjustments or modifications or tweaks, because a lot of people hear that C word and they go, oh no, I can't do that. But life is all about change. You think back 10 years ago, what life looked like to where it is now. Lots of changes. And 10 years from now, we'll look back and go, wow, those are a lot of changes. We hopefully we won't, we'll say, we remember 2020. We don't need to go over that again. That's enough. We know what happened there. We'll just, that's the year we don't talk about. Yes. And so, eventually we're going to get to that. It'll be fun when we do that. It's like, oh yes, that year. We don't talk about that year. Yeah. Or like, Back to the Future, when Doc is telling Marty, do not put in 2020. It makes sense. I get it. I wish we all would have been able to squeeze into that DeLorean. It'd been a lot easier to navigate this, but we didn't get that opportunity. So
But hey, it's all good. It's all good. And you're so right about that. Burnout definitely is a choice because, like, your choices really decide your future. And
mhm.
it's so darn true. And it's like, I guess it just comes to the fact that sometimes you just hate looking at that mirror and it's like, oh, wow, mirror, why are you so mean? And it's like, oh, darn.
Yep.
But yeah, it's so good that you're actually using that as a thing that you mentioned a lot because it's so darn true. Folks need to come to terms with that a lot more now than ever. So we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive, and that is if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time in 2021, with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Quit stressing so darn much. Go outside, get into nature, disconnect. Even at 25, I was always doing things constantly. My schedule is overloaded with things, and trying to, push forward and all that. And it's type A personality. It's common for people to burn out, but although there's laid back people that burn out too. So it's not just those type A people, but that'd be my advice to my 25-year-old self, is like, just don't be such a perfectionist. Just don't stress out about things. Go with the flow. Figure out what you want to do, and take the steps to get there. But you don't have to do it, by burning the candle at three ends. And because literally it was, front, back, in between, everywhere. And it was just like, just like pour gasoline on the thing and light it. That's basically what, my life was looking like. So even then, it wasn't as bad as it was towards, my 369 days, but there were things in motion, even back then. And I think that if I would approach life a little bit differently, then my life definitely, it definitely would have looked differently. I don't know how it would have looked. I I truly don't know. We don't necessarily get that option to go back and say, well, if we did this, this would happen. We don't know because of everything else and dynamics. And I look at it as probably called to be able to go through what I did in order to be able to do what I do. Um, it's well worth it. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, but I'm thankful that I had that year of worst case scenarios because it's helped me be a better person. And it's helped me guide organizations and individuals so they can avoid their own 369 days. And if I can do that, then it's definitely well worth my time and effort.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Well said indeed. That's right. Type A, type B. Stress comes for everybody, baby. That's right.
Mhm.
You can be laid back and stress is like, hey buddy, how you feeling? "Oh, I was doing good." And then it's like, oh, gotcha. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
dang.
Yep. Yep. It doesn't care. Doesn't care race, gender, creed, background, nationality. It doesn't care. It'll attack anybody.
That's right indeed. So for those who want to up their defense against the wonderful burnout, stress, and need that guidance from the mighty Mike himself, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
Best way to find me, breakfastleadership.com is the website. My email is michael@breakfastleadership.com. There's a ton of free resources on the website, a lot of templates and bucket list type of thing, and everything. And the resources page is pretty much free. So they just enter their name and information, send it to them. If I've recorded a video, I've done it for most of them. I got to do some more recording, but there's some other templates I just need to record a couple videos for. But gives them, a link to a YouTube video saying, okay, this is how you do this. This is how it works, and all of that. And obviously, people can reach out to me anytime. I do a ton of public speaking at events, although mostly virtually right now, which is good. But my luggage does miss me, and I miss it too. But one day we'll see each other again. It's in storage now, and we'll get there. But I speak at events and conferences and with teams to help their teams prevent burnout because that helps the organization, it helps the clients that they serve. It has such a huge ripple effect. So happy to talk with organizations or individuals about how to avoid burnout.
That's what I'm talking about, folks. We'll definitely reach out to the Mighty Mike himself, grab some copies of his books, especially 369 Days to Survive. Definitely a powerful story that you need to pick up and learn from what this man's doing. And heck, check out his podcast too. Indeed, yours truly is on there, and tons of other wonderful humans dropping some great stuff for you, folks. So reach out to the Mighty Mike himself. So, any parting words before we close up shop?
Make this year your best year and just live a life that's free from burnout and figure out what that looks like and design it and because it is your life. You get to control how your life looks, and when you do that, and it has such a positive ripple effect for you and everyone in your life.
How's it going, you super special, awesome human? Since you made it to the end of this episode, it looks like you really enjoyed yourself. Since you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share with at least 3 people in your network and tell them what you really liked about this episode. Heck, even shoot myself or the guest an email and let them know what you liked most about this interview so that way they can stay inspired to keep pushing out great work.